Welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. This is the live Q&A. If this is your first time joining, anything and everything is on the table. You just ask your questions in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, you can ask your questions there. I try to get to everybody's questions. I usually can. So the Q&A will go for about 45 minutes. And yeah, anything related to client work, bookkeeping, accounting, mindset, really whatever your block and your roadblock is right now, or your struggle with building your business or growing your business, I'm here to support you. So I will start with my little announcements. And in case you're not on my email list, which if you're in Zoom, you're definitely on my email list because that's really the only way to get the Zoom link or the Facebook group. Welcome everyone to the live Q&A. If you're joining on YouTube, hello. Okay, hey Patricia. She said, let me know if this is too specific. Setting up Xero for a client whose sales run through Keep with Stripe processing inside Keep plus separate PayPal, partial 2025 history already imported via bank feeds, nothing categorized yet. What's your approach to structuring the revenue side when the processor data lives inside the CRM? Do you pull gross sales detail from Keep and treat Stripe or PayPal deposits as clearing accounts, or is there a cleaner pattern? Also curious where you draw the line on how much detail to carry into the chart of accounts versus leaving in the source system. So since you're on Xero, this is my process inside of Xero. I actually connect Stripe and PayPal as bank accounts. So if a client has 5 different Stripe accounts, we connect 5 different Stripe accounts as bank accounts and we treat them like bank accounts. That way we can see the gross sales come in and the fees, and we create bank rules based on those Stripe accounts and what type of revenue is coming in and record it that way. So that goes for any type of like checkout, basically. If Stripe is the background processor, that's what we connect. Same with PayPal. So Stripe will create a separate account for each platform that they have linked. They didn't used to do that. PayPal doesn't. So a client can have PayPal attached to their Squarespace website, their Acuity, their Kajabi, and probably Shopify, and everything would be feeding into one PayPal account. When that happens, we have to do like clearing accounts and rules with that. And we also encourage clients to create separate PayPal accounts for each platform because it keeps it cleaner. Because the other aspect of it is a lot of times clients will also pay for things through their PayPal account. So every transaction in PayPal needs to be looked at, and it can get quite cumbersome. So that would be my recommendation, is to just connect the payment processor, Stripe and PayPal as bank accounts and reconcile them like you would a bank account, pull the statements every month, do the bank feeds, all that jazz. So hopefully that helps. The one thing I will say is we have a couple clients that have so much volume that comes through Stripe each month that Xero actually reached out to us and said they're exceeding volume limits. And so for those 2 clients, we had to disconnect the Stripe accounts with the high volume, and now we do a journal entry, which is kind of a bummer because then you can't do real-time revenue with those clients because we're only going to book that journal entry once a month. But for clients under $1 million in revenue, you can usually get away with just connecting Stripe and PayPal as bank accounts. Those particular clients that we have a lot of they're a membership platform. And so they have a lot of small dollar transactions flowing through, and Xero's limit is like a 2,000 transactions a month or something before you start hitting their surcharges. So just a little heads up on that. I had no idea about that, but it has to do with their fair use data policy. So like when a client has a high volume of data like that, since it's a cloud software, it affects the usability for other people. So we did that. Xero also had an option to just upgrade and pay like $400 a month and keep everything connected, and they would give us more data. But we decided not to go that route because it really wasn't that important to the client to be able to see the real-time revenue in Xero because they're tracking that in Thrivecart. So anyway, that was kind of little sidebar there, but let me know if all that makes sense. But yeah, our process is to just connect payment processors as bank accounts when it's Stripe and PayPal. And then Melanie said, I just actually quoted my first advisory client, so feeling excited about that. One question is pricing. It feels so uncomfortable to request a higher fee. Yeah, It can feel very uncomfortable. So what is your question? I would recommend like practicing asking for the sale and like practice talking about those higher fees before you actually do it with a client on a call, because it's going to come off as awkward and uncomfortable if that's how you feel about it. If you're not used to quoting higher fees, it is a little bit uncomfortable, but the way that I look at it is to make it worth the effort and the energy that you're going to put into this type of engagement, it needs to be a certain price. So you wouldn't want it to be lower. And for me, that helps me quote the higher price is like, I know it's worth this much because this much energy I'm going to put into it and I'm going to deliver. So it is a little uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to say those higher fees, higher prices, and it's uncomfortable to commit to doing that level of work. And so they have to match, right? Just a range of pricing for advisory versus bookkeeping. They have a solid bookkeeper. Yeah. So if you're not doing the bookkeeping, obviously you can account for that if you would like. It's really, there's not a right or wrong way to do it. You can choose to do a little bit of a discount because you're not doing the bookkeeping, or you can choose to give a more of a premium because you're not doing the bookkeeping, and you're also going to have to be kind of doing a level of review on someone else's work. So really just kind of depends on how you want to structure your services. But yeah, that's super exciting. Keep us posted on how that goes and if they accept your proposal. And if they don't, it's doesn't mean anything about you or the price. I mean, it could be price related, but yeah, I recently quoted a really high price for someone who had just bought a business and they wanted to get certain things in place. And I knew the level of work involved in it because it's e-commerce and I have e-commerce clients, and the prospect of being able to help somebody set those systems up from the beginning so that everything feeds in where they want it and they have visibility was very exciting to me, but I knew it was going to be a heavy load up front. So I quoted like 10 grand. And I was okay with them not accepting it because I would not want to do that work for anything lower. In fact, like I really would have preferred charging a higher fee, but that pricing was based on if they continued working with us in the future. So it kind of would even out. But yeah, I would not have, it would have been a lot of hours building that out on the front end to make it easier to perform the advisory later, if that makes sense. Learn the hard way about pricing too low and my capacity. Yeah, me too. Me too. Melissa, yes, if you'd like to ask your question, go for it.
Hi,
Hi.
hello. I just got off like 15 minutes ago, a discovery call with somebody that another client of mine referred to me, and we talked about her books. She's a coach, and so it's service based and seems relatively straightforward. She has like a checking account, a couple of savings accounts, and one credit card. Just payroll for herself as the owner. No loans, nothing like that. So pretty easy. But we got to pricing, and I told her that my minimum fee is 350 to bring anybody on, kind of no matter what, and that her books seem to fit into that fee. She doesn't want advisory or anything like that, just reports sent to her at the end of the month. And that's the first time that I've had like a live conversation about pricing. So that was pretty uncomfortable. Usually I say, I'll send you a proposal or whatever. But I mean, her bookkeeper is just retiring. So they're caught up. They sound clean. And so I just quoted her that monthly price, and she is currently paying 180. So she was like, that's double. And can we negotiate? And I said no, and I'm proud of myself.
Good
Um,
job.
but I just thank you. It was, I don't know. Do you have any advice for like how does 350 sound outrageous for books that seem pretty easy?
No, and honestly, like I don't think people should charge lower than free 350 if you are actually like doing full bookkeeping, reconciling the balance sheet, reconciling all the bank accounts and providing reports. I think 350 is reasonable. Um, Chances are like yeah, you're gonna come across people, especially if they've been paying 180 and they may or may not be getting the same level of service that you're offering, but on paper it might look like it's gonna be the same. So I wouldn't go below that amount, but I also know that like we manage a lot more for clients than just kind of like people realize. Like, so there's other stuff included in our packages that
Mhm.
get missed a lot, like annual reports and, other compliance issues. And like we have unlimited communication. So there's other things that like for us, I would never go below that. But so you get to decide like what your minimum is. And if that's your minimum and someone's not willing to pay it, then it's probably okay. The other thing I would say too is like, I'm I'm not huge on people negotiating, but like for future reference, if you really did want to work with the client and wanted to find a way to make it work and they were like, "Well, I'm used to paying this, would you be willing to go lower?" Then I'd be like, "Sure, let's talk about what on this list of what we are going to do we can remove and make that the same price." You know what I mean? Like so if you don't want reports every month, then yeah, 180 makes
Yeah,
sense. But I also have kind of like a boundary where even if clients don't think they want the reports, if they were willing to remove that, I would have a hard time delivering that kind of service without the reports. One, it kind of screws up our workflow because everyone else gets reports. So it's just standard. And then number two is like, even though they may
mhm,
think they don't want them, they should be receiving them, and we want our clients to be get used to looking at the reports and understanding their numbers, and that's part of the benefit of working with us. So that's the other thing too, is you have to really decide like what are you willing to negotiate on, and if like you're firm in like no, these are the services we're offering and we want everyone in our firm to have that benefit, then that's okay to walk away if you don't want that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I feel like 180 is such a screaming deal, and maybe somebody else is willing to pay 350. So I want to keep that space open.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And she might come back. Like this happens to us too, like where something like this happens, they are like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. And then they go out and get more quotes from other bookkeepers and either realize they're not going to get that same level of service or B, like no one else is charging that low. So they end up coming back
Right.
because this was the best option.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
She said it's not a no, so we'll see.
yeah.
But thanks. That's good to hear that that doesn't seem overpriced in
No,
your
I
opinion.
think I think 350 should be the standard across the industry. So if you're listening to this and you're only charging 180, granted, like there is that aspect of like what all are you providing in that service and the level of experience that you bring and the level of human touch too. Like
Mhm.
our clients talk to us about a lot of stuff. Patricia knows this because she has the same type of thing. Like it's almost like therapy. And because we're the only people with visibility to this level of like their picture. Like sometimes even their own spouses don't have the picture that we have. And so
Right.
it creates this intimacy that and trust that a lot of business owners crave because they can't share that with everyone on their team.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Cool. Any other questions? We still have some time. Like I said, I usually go for about 45 minutes. Nicole, go for it.
Hey, how
Hello.
you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to ask, do we have anything in the program where we have the disengagement letter for all my clients?
Yes, it should be in the template vault.
Okay, and that's something definitely to, so I've pretty much reviewed everybody closing out June 30. I've still got a few to do this week and next week, but the last bookkeeping I did was for everybody was June 30. Is there anything else you recommend? Like, should I send an email with just an update of where things were all left? And in the closing engagement, should I
Yeah.
put something in there about like you've reviewed everything, you've accepted everything how it is? Is that kind of something I should add?
Look at the template. It might have some kind of clause like that. I
Okay.
would definitely give them an update of like, this is where everything's at. as of
Okay.
this closure letter, like we're done. And then here's the steps that we really need you to do. Like if they need to remove your access
Yeah.
to anything, like add that in there too. And then you can give them like a time expiration of when like your files are going to be inaccessible to them. Like
Yep.
I don't know if you use OneDrive or Google Drive, but like our Google Drive, I think now with Google Drive, you can actually set an expiration date on when you've shared things externally,
Oh,
which is really helpful
yeah.
to like automate things. But
Yep.
prior to that, we would just let them know like this is available for you for, 30 days.
Yeah,
After
yeah,
that,
yeah.
if
I
you need
kind of
access to this,
Yeah, I
we
kind
can
of
charge you.
told them like when I had my closing Zooms, I've said to them, look, obviously Google Drive, we create the folders for them to dump their stuff, but they still own the documents. So obviously the documents are theirs anyways. Like by me removing the folders or whatever, it's not going to change where their stuff is, correct? Because it's still there in their Google Drive.
Yeah, like if they're the owner of the Google Drive, then yeah. Also, like I always encourage people to go in there and just download everything.
Yep.
Although like everything was digital, so they either sent it to us digitally, so they had it at one point, or like
That's
we
yeah.
pulled it
That's
from
what I was
their
kind of trying to say because if
yeah,
they own the document and they upload it into our shared folder, the document is still theirs on their drive. It just
yeah,
wouldn't be in the folder. So
yeah.
I've kind of told them that yeah, it's their anything that's theirs is theirs, but what's
Hmm.
mine is mine.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I've got to do that, and then I've got my tail insurance going to be put in place once everything's done. But I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to do to, I mean, I've reminded them to remove me from their QuickBooks file. But what about some old clients from way back that they still haven't removed me, but I'm still on their QuickBooks thing. And obviously I'll still be doing my husband's book. So I'm not getting rid of I'm going to close the business, but I'm still going to be working in his
Yeah.
and I'll still keep my accountant version because that can be any name, anything. It doesn't really matter. It's not tied to
Yeah.
anything.
I think I just like on my accountant screen, you can archive people so they
Yeah, I
don't
did.
show
I
up
made
in
them
your
inactive,
list.
so they're still there. But I've sent
Yeah.
some of them I've sent like 3 or 4 emails, like 3 or 4 times to say you still haven't removed me for your own security. I would make sure you remove me as a user. But then
Yeah.
there's some clients I did cleanups for, but I still haven't heard back from their 25. So I kind of don't know if I should still send them an email, say, hey, I am actually closing. But if my engagement's ended with them and it's expired, then I don't feel an obligation to keep
Yeah.
telling them to do that, you know?
I agree. I agree on that.
Yeah.
You could, I'm sure there's a way you could probably reach out to QBO and be like, please remove me from this. But
Yes. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll do that once everything's settled and that I'll reach out to QuickBooks and just let
yeah,
them know that all these clients, I no longer service them. And some of them have let their subscriptions lapse anyway.
yeah,
So it doesn't really matter. They can, that's their books, not mine. And I've made sure that I'm not a primary admin on anyone's subscription file, so that wouldn't matter.
yeah. Good.
Okay. So no
Awesome.
other tips and tricks for closing down, you think? Just
That's
follow the
it.
engagement letter.
That's it. I think like that's the hardest part is closing that final loop because sometimes people are non-responsive.
I've had that too. Like I've got one client that hasn't paid me like he paid me like the last couple of months, but he's missed an invoice and he still hasn't booked his like, review ending and stuff. And I'm just like, dude, like I'm just over it and I'm not going to finish anything until he pays me. So I don't want
Yeah.
to then close everything, but it's just like trying to remind him like you still haven't paid this invoice. It's outstanding, please pay it. And then if you want your review, but if the review's too late, I'm just going to upload the reports but I'm not going to give him his reports until he pays me. So
Yeah.
it's kind
Yeah.
of like one of those situations. But it's just
Yeah.
for clients, like some clients, their payroll. Like I have one client, for some reason, he always, every now and then, he chooses to take out cash to pay payroll and it never matches the journal entry. And then I'm trying to find matches for withdrawals and just trying to clean all that up. And I've just said to him so many times at the end of the year, you have to make sure that you check the books to the W3 because
Yeah.
I can't guarantee when you keep doing this stuff, like it's not going to be overinflated. But I have gone through all of the chart of accounts and I looked at payroll and there's nothing, everything's been reconciled that was in there. And I figured, well, if it's all been reconciled to June 30 and there's nothing that hasn't reconciled, then I've captured all the expenses. So at least they're in there, like the
Yeah.
expense of payroll, because otherwise, if he had extra journal entries that didn't match to something, there'd be a journal entry and there'd also be his expense that came out for the cashier's check. That's all I can wrap my head around to try to reconcile it.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do
I know,
with the
right? So yeah,
information you have.
I know, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, it's coming to an end.
Well, congratulations
Thank you.
for
I'll still
anyone
be
who's been
around though.
on.
You never know. I still want to
Yeah,
learn things. You never know what
yeah,
life brings.
we'll hang out. Yeah, for anyone hasn't been watching our previous live Q&As,
Yeah. Yeah, I know,
you'll have to
right?
go back and watch the previous ones to get caught up on
Yeah.
all that.
Okay, well,
But
thank you for everything.
you're welcome. Candace asked, do you have any advice about the timing and method for going from solo to having a first hire in a bookkeeping and advisory services business? Well, I will share that my very first hire, I actually hired bookkeeping help when I had basically just like 5 clients because I was offering higher level advisory services and doing more thorough reviews and summaries for clients that I found that I needed support in the bookkeeping a lot earlier on than probably a lot of people would have chosen because it's really hard to wear both hats of like being in the weeds and doing the bigger picture review and analysis and advising for clients. And so you might find that you want to hire a bookkeeping role sooner than you would have thought in order to help remove yourself from that day to day. And that way you can just focus on that advisor and reviewer hat. That is one of the things to be in that higher level role. You have to have time and space and energy to think bigger and to think strategically. And that's really difficult when you are the one doing all the day-to-day bookkeeping, admin, everything for clients. Because what inevitably will happen is you go in with the thought that, okay, I'm going to review, like the bookkeeping is done. I'm going to go review the work and put together a summary for clients. And then you find mistakes and then you start fixing them. And like this can also happen if you have a team. So you have to separate yourself from that and decide, like, okay, this is review time where I am actually going to go in there looking for things that I know I'm going to send back to the bookkeeper. But if you're the one doing all the work, it's really hard to separate that. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, is to hire when you want to, not when like industry standards say to. Yeah, and for your first hire, some people like to hire in more of an administrative role to take the burden of like managing email and client communication, that type of stuff versus bookkeeping. But it really depends on where you're spending most of your time. Like I have never had just a dedicated administrative role in my firm because everyone kind of does their own admin for the clients that they have. And we don't have a ton of email stuff going back and forth because we use systems like HubDoc and Content Snare to gather information from clients. So everything is contained. So it really depends on how you have things structured, which brings me to like, if you are newer in business, to set those systems up early on, have a dedicated help inbox, have all your clients send documents through something like HubDoc or Dext instead of emailing you documents. That way everything is contained within a client instead of you having to have someone sift through an email and put it where it belongs. When you set those systems up from the beginning, it eliminates the need for having to hire an administrative role, and then you can just go straight to hiring a bookkeeper to support you in the day-to-day. Patricia said, related to consultant hiring, I want a technical second opinion on setup and structure questions a few times a month, not a full engagement. I've started reaching out and gotten some generous informal offers, but I like to build something durable and reciprocal rather than goodwill dependent. What arrangements have you seen actually hold up for that kind of a consulting relationship? Paid hourly, retained advisor, formal peer trade. By the way, my firm is now focused on advisory and transformational financial coaching, so lots of changes from a straight bookkeeping firm from a few years ago. Awesome. I remember you working on doing that transition, so I'm excited for you that it's finally happened. Okay, so what you're asking is like you're trying to set up more of like a consultant relationship with clients. Okay, you're nodding. Okay, good. I'm like, just want to make sure I understand what you're asking. Um, and you want it to be like more predictable and constant, like more of an engagement rather than one-off consulting calls, right?
I think you're talking about clients right now. I'm
Mhm.
kind of the questions I ask you, Serena. I often want to run by somebody with more accounting
Got it.
experience than I am. Yeah, so it's
Okay.
more of the accounting. I would love to just have a couple of people who I could run by the systems and build my own. Often I'm getting projects that are bigger than my experience
Mm-hmm.
in terms of accounting, not in terms of the personal side and the way that the money
Yeah.
affects the people. Yeah.
Okay. So you're really looking more for like almost like a peer mastermind group that with people with different skill sets that you can like either refer the client to or get input so that you know that you're helping the client properly, right? Okay. Um, that's a really good question. So and I'm like, should I create something like this? I would say, well, I don't want to like let too much of the cat out of the bag, but I'm trying to create more of that in Elevate. So it's more of like where you're learning the skills, but there's also going to be people in there that already have the skills and a community aspect. So maybe that can suffice. The other thing that I will say is like just creating your own connections with people that you know in the industry, which can be kind of hard, but when we do like in-person events, that's when I've connected with people like that because then you get to really understand like, oh, you really know your so it's like if I need you, like I can call you. So like I have a couple people in the industry that I would lean on for that just kind of as friends, but nothing really formal. So you can go that route as well if you've identified people in, you know, in our community that do the thing that you know you need a little extra support in. That could be a route you take as well. But I am really hoping to create that in the Elevate community of like, there's obviously going to be people newer to advisory coming in, but also people that have been doing it for a long time still come through that program to get more structure around their services. And they have really deep skills around strategy and stuff. So that would probably be a good space to find that.
That would be great. Yeah, I don't mind paying somebody to consult.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not like I wouldn't be bringing them into my firm. That it's not like, oh, you're going to have
Right.
a whole bunch of time. It might be just a few hours a month.
Yeah.
So that's kind of yeah, I
Okay.
appreciate your idea about the group though. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, shoot me an email and we can chat too if you want. Yeah. Judith said, I'm still in the beginning stages of starting my business, so don't have clients yet, but hopefully soon. Do I need to have active clients to join your Elevate program when it's revamped? No, you do not have to have active clients to join Elevate. But what I will say is it might be a richer learning experience if you do have an active client that you can practice the skills on because I am going to be offering like homework reviews and more insights in that realm. And it's really helpful to have something to practice on. So you can either choose to use your own business as practice or a client's business, but either way, it's going to be a richer experience if there's a lot of data to work with. So if you don't have clients yet, you're also not going to have a lot of data to work with in your own business as far as history goes, but you can still use your own business to do the planning activities. So it might work out. I would just say like it might be better if you do have a client to work through, even if you haven't engaged that client for advisory services. We do practice on clients and you may or may not even like give that information to clients, but having a client to work through is good practice. So, yeah, hopefully that helps. And I don't have an exact date yet, but it's this fall. So you do have time. You have time to get a client. Candace said that's so true about making space for higher level roles and how much more difficult it is to get into it when we're doing all the day-to-day bookkeeping. Yeah. Um, and yes, I should create something like this. I did actually have a mastermind for about a year. We ran it for 6-month cohorts. I did it twice. And then just like life had some stuff going on and I had to eliminate some things. And that was one of the things I eliminated. So we'll see. I might bring it back. I might incorporate it more into Elevate. It doesn't, I'm not really sure yet. One thing that I would really like to start doing is like in-person type things. I usually participate in Workflow Queen's masterminds, but she doesn't have any planned as of right now. So I might do some like dinners or something in Phoenix. So keep an eye on your email. Make sure you're subscribed. I'm not actually in Phoenix, but I'm in Arizona. So that's like the nearest city where I think it would make the most sense. And Melanie, like I said, the next Elevate this fall, I'm hoping around September is when I think it will start, like when it will be open and things will be rolling. Enrollment might happen before that. So just keep an eye on your email and our social accounts. And then over on YouTube, how did you get a job as a bookkeeper? It is really hard to start. People like to outsource those kind of jobs. So I came into my own business with experience from corporate, and I think that helped a lot. So if you are brand new and you don't have any experience yet, I do recommend working for someone else and getting that experience in. So there's always bookkeeping firms hiring remotely and in person. And I do recommend, even if you only have a few hours a week working for someone else, it's going to help you gain that experience that you can then be able to speak to more of like the experience that you have when you're trying to land your own clients. Are you switching from HubDoc to Xero's smart data capture? No, I haven't really. I think that's more like I haven't actually looked too far into it, and I should, but I've always used HubDoc because it just keeps everything streamlined for us. And because we do have like one client on QBO, but we also use HubDoc for them. So it's like, it's just nice to have one place where all the documents get processed as one process instead of like logging into each client. Like you can just log into HubDoc and then go to each client from there. So no, I haven't not explored the data capture, smart data capture, smart data capture. Some things are tongue twisters when you read them. So no, I have not explored that, but it's worth exploring, I guess. Like HubDoc is free because it's owned by Xero anyway. So I wonder if like they're just trying to combine it and like streamline it or what their deal is on that one. Be curious to know. Kelly says, how do you motivate employees when they seem overwhelmed? I just shifted roles and gave pay increases for the increased responsibility, but at my team meeting today, they both vocalized being overwhelmed. They are within their requested hours. I listened and just reminded them that all new things feel overwhelming. We have SOPs, so they have training and access to me. Yeah, I think that approach was really good to just like validate it and listen and remind them like accounting has ebbs and flows. Like there's going to be times that are overwhelming for everybody. And that's why we have our workflow systems in place so that you can just like focus on the task at hand and then move on to the next one. And then I always also make myself semi available of like, if you are like, there's a difference between being overwhelmed and actually not having the time to complete something. So sometimes it's a matter of helping them reprioritize. So I'll sit down with people and be like, okay, like what is on your list that is feeling overwhelming to you? Is there anything that we can set aside for now? And because just kind of like put it in a box, compartmentalize it, and then come back to it later, because a lot of overwhelm is based on like just kind of being anxious about something that isn't really necessary to be anxious about. So I try to like sit down and be like, okay, what is it that's overwhelming you? Like, and then here's what the things that actually need to be done. So let's just ignore everything else for now and then come back to it after this is done. And it could also be that there's stuff going on in their personal lives and they're having a hard time just managing time in general. So just being like exactly what you did, just like be there and be available to listen and maybe offer, if you're not doing one-on-ones with them, maybe offer doing like a one-on-one co-working session as accountability, because sometimes it's that too, that they haven't really been able to carve out time to work on something. That's where my overwhelm comes from, when I'm like, I know I have all the I need to do and I don't have time carved out. And sometimes body doubling helps to just be like, okay, I'm just gonna like, let's hop on a call and we'll work through it together. I'll be there if you have questions, if you're getting stuck on things. And maybe that's where the overwhelm is coming from, that they're afraid they're not going to have the support when they do dive into something. They've just taken on additional responsibilities. So I think it's natural and normal for them to feel overwhelmed right now. But yeah, just being there for them can sometimes just be enough. So yeah. Yeah, and reminding them that like you're there. And then my last resort too is like if there is like once you sit down and talk about priorities, like if there is something that does need to get done and they actually are not going to be able to accomplish it, then like I will take on something for them. I'll be like, well, let me do this piece for you this time until you get used to it. Or like maybe we need to reshift who's doing what. Like it's good to talk about that on the team calls too, because sometimes people will be like, oh well, I have extra time, or I'm willing to help out, and just kind of like foster that camaraderie. You're welcome. Well, it is 10:45 here in Arizona. So, like I said before at the top of this, I usually go about 45 minutes. So thank you all for joining me on our return back from summer break. I hope that everyone had a wonderful summer, and yeah, I will talk to you guys later next month if you are going to join us. And if you are in the VIP version of the Bookkeeping Business Accelerator, we have VIP. I had to look at my whiteboard. I'm like, which day do we have it scheduled? So we're going back to a monthly schedule on the VIP calls because we're not in like an active cohort, basically. Like when I open it and enroll it, sometimes I do like an 8-week cohort. We don't have any of those scheduled as of yet. So we're rolling back into our monthly calls for anyone who's in VIP. We are doing co-working on Tuesdays, first Tuesdays at 9 a.m., except we're not starting that till September. And then we're doing hot seats on the third Thursday at 10 a.m. All these times are in Pacific time. If you're in VIP, you will be getting an email with the schedule, and the schedule will also be on the banner when you log into VIP and into the Facebook group. So don't worry if you didn't catch the dates and times. We will be starting our first hot seat in August, and our first co-working starts in September. So thank you, everyone. I hope to see you in there. If you're in self-paced VIP and you want to upgrade, just email us and we'll send you the link and you can join the calls. And then once you're a VIP, you're always a VIP, so you get to participate in the calls forevermore. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you so much and have a beautiful rest of your week. Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shu. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout. And you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Be ambitious.